children what to do. An introduction that covered a lot of topics. Krishna killed Dhenukasura this morning. And now Pralambasura. There were many questions that arose and comments that arose, and so I'm going to try to touch on some of those. The inseparable Krishna and Balaram. There was a nice quote, then we found the scriptural reference for it. This is Jayadvaita Swami in a morning walk conversation with Srila Prabhupada in Vrindavan. And Prabhupada is commenting, Gaurnitai and Krishna and Balaram are non-different. There's no difference between Krishna and Balaram and Gaurnitai. So, if you ever have any difficulty, you can go before Gaurnitai or Krishna and Balaram and say, Sir, this is the problem. And they will do the needful. According to Jayadvaita Swami's memory of that morning walk conversation in Vrindavan. So this was a topic that came up, and now it's this continuation on that topic. Bhakti Siddhanta, we spent some time discussing the relationship between Radha and Balaram as far as Guru Tattva is concerned. Here's an essay from the Harmonist by Bhakti Siddhanta. This is a part of an essay. Those of you that are receivers of messages you circulate here, you should have received this, the full article. This is extracted from it. The Absolute alone may communicate his service to the separate constituents of himself, that's souls, jivas. This is the real nature of the function of the Guru. So the Guru function is to communicate on behalf of the Absolute, the service of the Absolute to the separate constituents of himself. Bhakti Siddhanta's language. But Nityananda does not directly instruct in the confidential service of Krishna. Srimati Radhika is the Guru of the inner circle of the servants of Krishna. Srimati Radhika, however, accepts the offer of service of only those souls who are especially favored by Nityananda and are deemed by him to be fit for her service. They're a good team. So to say Nityananda, it means Balaram also. Just like in the section of Chaitanya Charitamrita where Balaram Tattva is described, to describe Nityananda Tattva, they're interchangeable. Here's Srila Prabhupada in a purport from Canto 1, Chapter 14. Sri Ram, or Balaram, is the protector of the devotees of the Lord. Baladev acts as the spiritual master of all devotees, and only by his causeless mercy are the fallen souls delivered. So this is just reconfirmation that Balaram is Guru Tattva, or the deliverer to Krishna, deliverer of Krishna and to Krishna. That's the Guru function. And some special ones get recommendation to Radharani. Here's Amritavani, it's a collection of Bhakti Siddhanta's writings where he writes something similar. The spiritual master is not different from Sri Radha. Cultivation of Krishna consciousness is done under Sri Radha's guidance and in subordination to her. If we fail to subordinate ourselves to her representative, the spiritual master, we will not be able to cultivate Krishna consciousness or even please Krishna. Now, the cultivate Krishna consciousness, that's obviously an English translation of something he wrote in probably Bengali, because he didn't use Krishna consciousness. That's Prabhupada's phrase. But you get the idea. Amritavani. And from Chaitanya Charitamrita Adi Leela, she, Radha, is the medium transmitting the living entity's service to Sri Krishna. Adi Leela, chapter 4. Devotees in Vrindavan, therefore, seek the mercy of Srimati Radharani in order to be recognized as loving servitors of Sri Krishna. Now, the reason for bringing this up is we had some discussion, and to add a little clarity, Radha as a representative, or representatives of Radha being representatives of the Guru Tattva principle, representatives of Balaram being the representatives of the Guru Tattva principle, and how do they connect? Are they the same? Are they different? How are they connect? How are they different? This was just some scriptural references or Acharya references to help us sort that out a little bit. The son of Rohini will also, this is just an added detail of glorification of Balaram before we move on. The son of Rohini will also be celebrated as Sankarshan because of being sent from the womb of Devaki to the womb of Rohini. He will be called Rama because of his ability to please all the inhabitants of Gokula. This was your question. When we say Rama and Hare Krishna, Hare Rama, what does it mean? And it can mean a number of things. Here's another one of the many things it can mean. Because of his ability to please all the inhabitants of Kula, it means Balaram. It can mean other things too. And he'll be known as Balabhadra because of his extensive physical strength. And now we remember, I'm sure those of you that are with us will remember, Balaram doesn't just mean physical strength, it means spiritual strength. This verse is speaking, at least it's translated as physical strength, but another reference, Canto 1, Chapter 11, because he is as powerful as Lord Krishna and can bestow spiritual power to the devotees, he is therefore known as Baladev. All of these little beginning references are just to embellish topics that came up and kind of to add a little bit to those topics that came up and we spoke about. There's another one I'm still working on. Yeah. So this is chapter 18, canto 10. There's two parts to this. Before the killing of Pralambasura, there's the scene in Vrindavan. So the age, Krishna's age, is this Poganda age, comes right after chapter 16 or 15, which was the Poganda age. So he's still, it's before the Govardhan Leela, which is 7. So it's quite possibly 6 or 7, because which part of the year of when he was 7 years old, which was that? So between 6 and 7 is Krishna's age, and it's summer, looking like spring. And then the scene, the chapter opens, they're entering into the forest, arm in arm, enjoying the pastimes of the places of Vrindavan. Although Krishna and Balaram entered the forest with all the cows, their main activity is playing like children, same as we heard with the Dhenukasura story. They played many different games. This is the blind man's bluff game. One boy is told to close his eyes, and then something is put in his hand. What is this? the wrestling activities, decorated with newly grown leaves and peacock feathers. Krishna and Balaram, with their cowherd friends, danced, wrestled, and sang. They're herding cows, but they're not herding cows. The cows love Krishna, so they just follow Krishna wherever Krishna goes, and Krishna is with the cowherd boys, exchanging loving dealings with them as little boys will do, trying to touch one another. Now the Brahmin boy, that's Madhu Mangal in the painting, they snatch his lunch, and Madhu Mangal is chasing after his lunch, and they're laughing, and Madhu Mangal's not laughing, he wants his lunch. Trying to identify somebody while one is blindfolded. That was the other painting. And sometimes they would imitate animals and birds. So this little line drawing, imitating frogs in a crouched position ready to jump, sometimes imitating peacocks ready to take flight or stretching their tails. One boy is being carried by two boys hanging from their arms. The wrestling activities. And this leads us into the Pralambasura pastime. Sometimes they'd swing on swings. Sometimes Krishna would sit underneath a tree and play upon his flute. And the cowherd boys would sit with Krishna, hearing Krishna play upon his flute, charming everyone. And the cows, of course, would just be nearby because that's where Krishna is, so they would stay nearby. And then the scene, there's a different cowherd boy that entered with all the other cowherd boys that nobody recognized, but he was dressed like a cowherd boy, so they just allowed him to enter. But Krishna knew it wasn't a cowherd boy, it was Pralambasura. And Pralambasura had a specific intention. His specific intention was to kill Krishna and Balaram. So while they're playing and playing and playing, Krishna fixes his mind on finishing him. So Krishna was the kind of commander of their games, so he divided the boys, as would happen on a regular basis, into pairs. This boy would wrestle with that boy, another one would wrestle with another one, and in pairs they would wrestle. And the arrangement was, as you know, whoever won was carried by the one who lost. And then they would wrestle, and then they would carry the other boys. So here's Krishna dividing the boys into two groups. And here they are pairing off with the wrestling. Nice long line drawings. And then the losers would have to carry the winners. So here's this very celebrated painting. We've seen this already the first day. There on the right is Krishna carrying Sridham. Sridham, who's Sridham? Radharani's elder brother. And very dear, I mean, that's his relationship with Radharani, but he's a very dear friend of Krishna's. And Sridham always wins. He always wins. Huh? Yes. You were there for that? I turned to Shesha and asked him, Shesha, do you remember Kirti Dev? Kirti Dev is the Prabhupada disciple, a god brother. And he had a certain personality. He's a very, very close associate of Hridayananda Maharaj. But he, learned it like Hridayananda Maharaj, but always smiling and always cracking jokes. So one of his jokes is, I remember very clearly, big smile and move his head like this. Sridham would say to Krishna, what kind of a big man are you? You always lose. So, and then other cowherd boys, winners and losers, And on the left, that's the cowherd boy, Pralamba, that wasn't a cowherd boy. And his plan, you see, Balaram has his plow over his shoulder. The Supreme Lord Krishna carried Sridham, Bhadrasena carried Vrishab, and Pralamba carried Balaram, the son of Rohini. And they were very close friends, Sridham and Krishna. So as they were moving, Balaram was enjoying the ride. He was the winner, and he was being carried by the loser. And he kept going deeper and deeper into the forest. Balaram thought, this is really fun. But then he started getting bigger and bigger, and bigger and bigger, and became gigantic form, and soaring in the sky. And Balaram realized, wait a minute, this isn't a cowherd boy. This is somebody else. And his shape changed, and he, look at that guy, looked really pretty weird. And Balaram understood what was going on. Of course, this is Yogamaya, he's omniscient, but to allow the pastime to play out, Balaram raised his right fist, and with one punch of his right fist, he broke his collarbone. And there's Krishna saying, stop. Pralamba is not going to stop. And Balaram clobbered him. There's a number of paintings of Balaram letting him have it. This is a BBT painting. This is a non-BBT painting. And he fell, came crashing to the ground, Pralambasura. And the cowherd boys, you see them in the background in this painting. When the Pralambasura fell to the ground, the boys had a party. Pralambasura is dead after the killing of Pralamba. And time for lunch. Now, this pastime took place after several demons, the Shakatasura and Putana, and this demon, that demon. So the cowherd men of Gokul decided to move back, because you know the history. They moved, both of them, Nanda and the others, moved from Vrishabhanu. They moved from Vrindavan to the other side of the river Jamuna, to Gokul, because neither of them were having children. And they thought maybe it has to do with the place. So their ancestral home is on the western side of the river Jamuna. But they moved to go to the eastern side of the river Jamuna and set up their homes, the residences. But they had all these problems with all these demons. And so they, in one day, they put all their belongings into bullock carts and went back to Vrindavan, just after the killing of Pralambasura. It's an important event. Now they're back in Vrindavan. So a little disclaimer again about Garga Samhita as a reference, but Garga Samhita has statements about who's who in each one of these demons in their previous life. So this is what Garga Samhita says. That previously Pralamba was a Gandharva. Gandharva of the name Vijaya. And he was, Vijaya was the son of Huhu. Huhu. And he was a singer. Gandharvas are singers. He was singing songs glorifying Vishnu. And as he was singing songs glorifying Vishnu, he passed through Kuvera's forest. And in his celebrated forest of Kuvera, he took some flowers. Boo. So he was cursed by Kuvera to become a demon. And Vijaya took shelter of Kuvera. So Kuvera blessed him. You are peaceful-hearted devotee of Vishnu, O respectful one. Please don't lament. At the end of Dwapara Yuga, in the Bandiravan forest, by the Jamuna's shore, you will attain liberation by Lord Balaram's hand. Of this there is no doubt. according to Garga Samhita. So Narada is the narrator. Narada said in this way, whose Gandharva's son became a great demon. And by Kuvera's grace, he attained liberation. Now, we heard earlier, so I'll repeat, and I could do it with slides, that there's two positions, the two demons that were killed by Balaram. The first one was Dhenukasura. We heard Bhaktivinoda Thakur's description and so forth. And in the first evening, we heard a little bit about the representation of the Pralambasura. You're used to it. This is Alachua. Sannyasis are not used to it. And I don't want to get used to it. Prabhupada was somehow, there were children playing and he would just carry on like you could hear it in the recording. He was a householder too. It's a blessing, being able to tolerate all that, and I don't have that blessing. The kids are kids, let them play. So, I think what I'm going to do right now is go back to this description. Hope I can find it quickly. Yeah. Yes. The mode of ignorance and the mode of passion. So the mode of ignorance is represented by Dhenukasura, the ass-like person or the ass-like mentality, and Pralambasura represents or is the indicator of lusty desire. Desire for personal gain and honor. It can mean, like on the right side, specifically gross physical lust, but lusting for those that have passion. They want to be the enjoyers of the objects of matter. Personal gain and honor, labha, puja, pratishta. And that's Pralambasura. So what we've been hearing, and I'll repeat it, what we've been hearing is that these two demons, both Dhenukasura and Pralambasura, are demons killed by Balaram, and there's a special message that we heard, and I'm repeating, that those demons killed by Balaram represent the Guru Tattva principle, and with the Guru Tattva principle, Balaram's killing these demons indicates that we must also, on behalf of Guru, receive teachings of Guru how to overcome ignorance and passion. And it's not just bestowed upon us, it's bestowed upon us by Balaram, but the medium for its being bestowed upon us by Balaram is the medium of the teachings of Guru, because that's what the function of Guru is, to deliver Krishna and deliver Krishna through the sound vibration. And if we have our receivers on, then when we hear that sound vibration, some transformation of heart and then some effort to act differently than ignorance and passion. As long as ignorance, say it differently, as long as ignorance and passion cover the consciousness of the living entity isn't going to understand transcendence very well. something may come through. When there's heavy clouds in the sky, when it's daytime, there's still light, but you can't see the sun very well. You can't see things as clearly as when the clouds are gone from the sky and it's daytime. We still need the light, but clouds in the sky or fog makes it very difficult to see. Ignorance and passion similarly, and so how are fundamental ignorance and passion? There are other obstacles in the path of bhakti, but specifically our topic is Balaram, not all the demons that Krishna killed, but the demons that Balaram killed in his Raja Leela. Obstacles in the path of bhakti, it's fundamental, very pervasive ignorance and passion, represented by Dhenukasura and Pralambasura. So again, lusty desire is not just sexual attraction of one kind or another kind, but it's the honor and personal gain and prestige. Can that take place while executing bhakti, lava, puja, pratishta? Certainly. Now, how to overcome that? By the mercy of Balaram. By the effort that one makes, hearing and hearing again and hearing again from the proper source. Just that document that you should have all received makes reference to how, for example, hearing of the rasa dance, if one is a lusty person, one gets the wrong idea. But if one hears from the right source, then it has the potency, the potential. If one hears from the right source, then it has the potential of taking away all lusty desires. The clouds part and the passion subsides, but it's by hearing. So is it Krishna who is removing that lusty desire, or is it the sound vibration of the pastimes of Krishna that removes the lusty desire? With both, so we can say Krishna is deliverer, Balaram is deliverer, the Guru is deliverer. But ultimately it's the personality of Godhead who is the deliverer, but he does through the medium of his representative, specifically with these two, ignorance and passion, fundamental bondages that keep us in material existence, transforming Maya into reality. I like very much how Srila Prabhupada has translated 112 Bhagavatam, Vedyam Vastavam Atra Vastu Shivadam Trapatrayon Mulanam. This Bhagavatam can uproot the tapatraya, the roots of material suffering, and gives one a sense of reality distinguished from illusion. Now, that's a sound. The Srimad Bhagavatam is sound. And the sound, when heard from the right source, has that potential of removing the illusion, seeing clearly what reality is, distinguished from illusion. It's sound vibration. That's our shelter. Sound vibration. The Bhagavatam, of course, the holy name. And then from those sound vibrations, Shravanam, Kirtanam, sound vibrations, then all the rest of devotional service, up to the highest stages of devotional service. But you can't get to the higher stages when ignorance and passion are covering too much. And some persons struggle with these things. I mean, of course, nobody in the room struggles with these things, but I was very surprised. I mean, I maintained my external calmness, but I was a little surprised when just sharing. We had this past weekend a nice event in Gita Nagari called Body, Mind, Spirit Retreat, which could mean anything. And it was purposely, can mean anything. And, but the promotion was social media. So people that really don't know anything about anything came. And then some of those people that have come, they came and they brought their friends. So there's still some newer people plus some repeats. So it's a kind of very interesting mix of people, almost all Western, few non-resident Indian young people, college kids and things like that. And there was one fellow that came, and he was one of the kind of guys that likes to talk. And he was describing what he had been through and how Krishna consciousness picked him up from being a heroin addict. And then he slackened in his Krishna bhakti and he went back to being a heroin addict. And then he was saying things like, you get tired of being a pin cushion. You made a motion like this, injecting heroin in his veins. But, here's a young man, not too young, but, young man, living in an ashram. He wasn't just living on his own, but he was feeling protection from the situation of being in the association of devotees and hearing and being able to maintain the spiritual strength, the bala, just from that association. He likes sadhana. And he has the mode of ignorance that pulls him this way and pulls him that way and pushes him this way and pushes him that way. And so it's a force acting in his life, but there's a place of shelter. So I'm sharing that because it seems to fit with the Dena-Kusura and Pralambasura, two demons killed by Balaram. And specifically the comment, because it came up yesterday, there's something that we have to do when it comes to those obstacles. We have to hear, and then we have to apply what we hear. And it's not automatic process. It's a hearing process, and then awakening process, and then serving according to that instruction that we receive. How to move from the conditioned state to the liberated state, freedom from those two darker modes. Trying to remember, Canto 1, Chapter 2, Srimad Bhagavatam, there's this very nice discussion about Taro rajas tamo bhava kama lobhadayashe cheta etaranadvidam stitvam sattve prasidati. One can become situated in sattva by the means of bhakti, starting with the process of hearing. And then there's a very nice description by Sutta Goswami, and then purports by Srila Prabhupada describing that the sattva guna itself has a mix of ignorance and passion. At the same time, sattva has another meaning besides the mode of goodness. It means being situated in sat. And sat means absolute. Om Tat Sat, absolute truth. So the explanation given in the commentary is, Prabhupada didn't go this direction particularly, but it's from the platform of goodness that one can enter into transcendence. So one has to pass through that ignorance and passion mode by the hearing from the right sources, hearing in a qualitative manner from the right sources, and then gradually, purification brings one closer to sattva, and from sattva to sattvam, being situated in sat, and transcendence, the absolute reality. That's what Balaram killing these two demons represents. So may you all be successful. And we'll all celebrate as you become successful. Now let's see if there's some discussion or comments.
Thank you, Maharaj. I just wanted to express an appreciation I have. You mentioned the first canto, the second chapter, and Prabhupada gave a series of lectures in Los Angeles in 1972.
Yes.
And I like to listen to those repeatedly. But in there, he says, you just simply by hearing, even if you don't understand the Sanskrit, you don't understand the English translation, just simply by hearing, you will attain perfection. So I just was appreciating you were kind of confirming that. This is really our main business, is to hear properly.
Yeah. A little comment. Two comments. One is automatically. Burijan wrote a little article on the automatically word that Prabhupada uses. So I'll send it to you. You have it? Send the article. So it doesn't mean mechanically automatically, like a vending machine. Put in your coins, pull the lever, down comes perfection. It's not that kind of automatically. But sequentially, that is to say, as one goes on hearing and hearing and hearing and hearing and hearing and hearing, his cleansing, qualitative hearing leads to qualitative cleansing, leads to higher aspirations and more qualitative hearing, and etc., etc., etc. Yeah. Okay, that's it. Nanda, you know your name was mentioned yesterday? I was going to write you a little note, but I didn't get to it because I was too busy doing other stuff. But you can ask whatever thing you want to say, but then you can respond to what you know about this.
What I've been considering lately is, in regard to when you were speaking about Lord Balaram, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and the Guru,
What's the relation?
Yeah, but so here, my question is I've been thinking lately that, sorry.
Go ahead, take your time.
That sometimes I pray to the Supreme Person, to Lord Balaram particularly, Balaram for guidance. And then sometimes it enters my mind, who do I think I am praying to Lord Balaram? Why don't I just pray to Srila Prabhupada? Just.
The answer is, Prabhupada said, pray to Balaram.
Thank you. End of mental platform. Thank you.
That's an instruction, fulfilling an instruction. When you pray to Balaram, that's the medium. It's, it can be implicit or explicit, but it's under the authority of to pray directly to.
What's coming to mind was a vague remembrance of a pastime in either Ramanujacharya's life or Yamunacharya's life. I have a hard time distinguishing between the two pastimes, two personalities. But there was one of them had a disciple who would only look at his guru's feet, only. He wouldn't look at anything else. He would only look at his guru's feet. And that was like the perfection of a disciple. And so then I spun off a little mentally on that, so thank you.
There are different moods, and the guru could say, please, look at the deity of Narayana. I'm sorry, I can't look at the deity of Narayana, I can only look at your feet. What Guru says, you do what Guru says. That's what feet means.
Thank you.
Now, you want to answer the question that you were supposed to know the answer to?
Can you remind me what the question is?
Sure. Someone said that Nanda said that in their previous life, Duryodhana was a devotee of Balaram and he messed up and...
I read that in Garga.
I was searching for that in Gargasamhita.
I was going to bring my book, and then I thought, who do I think I am? Why should I bring my book? He's not going to ask that question.
I'll tell you what. I'll send you a letter, or I don't even have to send you a letter. I'm asking you, and you send me just, a digital copy of what's
Yes.
in there, because I remember reading it, and here's how I processed it. I processed it a little bit like Hari Parshad processes stuff from Garga Samhita. It's not a zero, but it's not even a half, not even a one. I mean, he doesn't use that language, but the Bhagavatam is the gold standard, and then there's other references, and he just dismisses Garga Samhita. So I remember reading it. I looked for it just today. I couldn't find it just today, but I kind of dismissed it when I read it because it's,
Yeah, well, that's my only reference, so I'm not a researcher or anything, so that was my only reference is that I read it in Garga Samhita.
Do you understand the question? You have any way to assist us? The topic that came up, because it's going to be coming up about Balaram. Could you take the microphone, please? The affinity that Balaram had for Duryodhana. Now, a little background. I started asking that question. I asked 6 people without naming the names.
I'll look into it.
You'll look into it.
Yeah, but I remember there is a reference in Vaishnav Tasoni that Duryodhana represent partial Kali. That I found. I have to find the page and
But
send.
why did Balaram have affinity for him in the way that he had affinity for him? So much so. Okay, well, you're next.
He had a eagerness to learn the cloth.
Okay,
mace.
but he was a.
He was not really disciple. He was just eager to learn the maze.
That was the comment that I made. We talked about it during the earlier little function here.
Oh.
Nanda wants to add something, but just hold on. Just hold on. It was utilitarian.
Mm-hmm.
He's got something I want. Om Jai Jagadisha Hare. Because he had no devotion. How could he have devotion for Balaram when he despised the Pandavas, who are so very dear to his brother, and his brother, Krishna, is dear to Balaram as his life himself, and therefore also the Pandavas. And here's this fellow, there's other names besides fellow, person, who came, to teach, and he felt affinity for it, and he wanted his sister, Subhadra, to marry that guy. Now, it's a Leela, okay, it's a Leela. But that's what he wanted. Nobody wanted it. She didn't want it. And what kind of brother is that? He wants to marry his sister to somebody who doesn't want to marry the guy. That's not what brothers do, older brothers do.
I think Maharaj, life would be boring amongst the brother if there is no challenge. So Krishna was put into a challenge in a sense where he draw a lot of relishment because the Sankul Rati is a congested many Rati. The Krishna relishes that when Balaram put a big challenge in front, then he really tried to go around to break it.
Clever. His cleverness
and he
was
relishes
exercised.
that.
Yes.
And because
So then your answer is it was Yogamaya.
yes.
Yes.
Because he said, okay, who is taking who? It was a Subhadra who is actually taking Arjuna. Was not Arjuna taking the chariot. So who are you going to kill? And if you kill your sister, she will be widow whole life. Would you like that?
Yeah.
So all
Krishna's
these
answers are really good answers, aren't they? And he accepts it.
Yes.
Said, send your armies and go bring them back. Let's have a big marriage.
Yes.
So that's what happened.
Yeah. That's what he wanted.
Krishna's so amazing. Now you're in line. You don't, just because you're waving your arm and you talk out of turn. Don't. We're going to Nanda, then we're going to Ragatmika, and then we're going to you.
I think what got me, okay, anyway. What I was remembering when that reference came up, why Balaram was affectionate to Duryodhana, I was remembering in 7th canto, the Bhagavatam, after Lord Nrsingadev killed Hiranyakashipu, Lord Nrsingadev very happily sat on Hiranyakashipu's throne. Srila Prabhupada quotes from Sanatana Goswami in the purport, saying that why would he be so happy to sit on such a terrible person's throne? Because he didn't see him as Hiranyakashipu. He saw him as his eternal servant, as Jai and Vijay. So if we would accept that Lord Balaram had a relationship with Duryodhana in his previous life, then he's remembering that eternal relationship. But that's a speculation on my part. It's not as good as Pran Govinda's Prabhu's.
It's a nice speculation. Not authoritative, but it's a nice one. I got one like that too. Ragatmika.
This morning, Krishna Abhishek Prabhu gave class, and on Balaram, and I asked the question.
Which question?
What is the backstory to the relationship between Balaram and Duryodhana?
And he said,
he came up with this story of, because Duryodhana was such an expert and refined master of the mace.
It's true.
Yeah, so he really, and the student of Balaram, he favored him more than Bhima. However, after the class, Pashupati called me. And she said,
Bless her
see
heart.
if you can remember, Nanda. And I recall some years ago, you gave the class on Balaram's appearance day. And she said, you said that in the past life, Duryodhana was a very devoted worshiper of Sankarshan.
Sankarshan.
And Sankarshan...
This is the Garga Samhita reference,
yes,
right?
And Sankarshan, when wanting to appear in Krishna Lila like this, he asked his very devout servant, will you come and play the role of a demon? Okay.
His devoted servant, Kali, said, if you go to the material world, what am I going to do here? And he said, you can come. You can come and you'll be the son of a king.
So
that's Garga
Samhita. All the puzzle pieces are coming
and
together.
it seems like then this great devotee of Sankarshan was a surrendered soul.
Well, yeah, that's take the scriptural reference and bring it to not the Bhagavatam level. You follow what I'm saying? It's not. 2 grains of salt, please. Let's go the other direction. We had this discussion, but this is Alachua, so I can have topics like this. Shivaram Maharaj is very careful in his selecting of authority in his writings, and some places selectively he accepts. He narrates, he retells things from Garga Samhita. So it's not trash, but it's not the Bhagavatam either. So we don't, we discounted a whole bunch, but it doesn't go in the garbage bin. So I struggle with that. I mentioned already past lives from Garga Samhita says blah blah blah. Anyway, it just put it in the right, couch it in the right perspective of authority. I'd like to know what Rupa Goswami says, or one of our stalwart. Here's one. You get to come at the microphone next, but I got the microphone now. So here's one. Jagatananda's sitting in the back, and he came up with this interesting idea that according to a Bindu magazine that Madhavananda published, there's a description of Lord Shiva giving mercy where it's partial and not real, and then there's the full mercy of Lord Shiva. So what's the full mercy of Lord Shiva? Krishna Bhakti. And Lord Shiva may give benedictions to different devotees of him. And so, but it's not really the fullness of what Lord Shiva can give. So deductively, maybe, similarly, Balaram really gave preference to those who were dear to Krishna, and Duryodhana was not just because he was skilled at fighting, and so he liked him because he's skilled at fighting. In Mahabharata, because I read this just today, when Balaram tried to stop the two from fighting, Bhima and Duryodhana, he said specifically, Duryodhana's very artistic at club fighting, he can't be defeated. Balaram is far more powerful. Bhima is far more powerful. He can't be defeated. So guys, give it up. Why waste your time? But they couldn't. They continued fighting, so he went back to, according to Mahabharata, he went back to Dwarka. Yes. You want to add to this, right?
No, I wanted to...
Separate topic?
Pralambasura.
Okay, let's go to this nice devotee over here who was waving his arms enthusiastically.
Sorry. One interesting thing, Maharaj, in reference to that, we never mentioned Shakuni, because actually he was the mastermind behind everything. Without him, I mean, even one time
He was a strategist.
Yeah, he was the one who gave him the idea in the first place.
To do what?
To go to Balaram and get his, and he said you'll win him over by fighting, showing him how expert you are in the mace. You'll win his favor. It was actually his idea. He was the...
Yeah, but Balaram's not a dizzy guy.
Right. I mean,
You flatter Balaram and he's going to, sure, whatever you want. It's okay. You flattered me nicely. This, this is a demon. Shakuni is a demon.
oh, definitely.
Yeah.
But one interesting thing, Shakuni once said that the only person in this whole, there's no one here that can stop me from doing my schemes like he was so expert.
Yeah.
He said the only person who can figure me out is Krishna. No one else. He was actually extremely intelligent.
And respectful.
It's interesting to point that out because only Krishna could figure it out.
Okay.
Without...
Now, Vedavati she's been enthusiastic, patiently but enthusiastically raising her hand.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. Slight change of topic from this one to another one that you brought up about the quality of hearing and the mercy that comes from hearing from the spiritual master. I recently lost my oldest sister.
Watched what?
Lost my oldest sister.
Okay.
About a month ago. And a year before, we lost...
Oh, this microphone system is really
Oh,
fun.
dear. So, over the 50 years I've been in Krishna consciousness, I've been associated some sporadically with my family members. And in, say, maybe the last 20 or 30 years, I had learned not to, quote unquote, preach at them, but conversationally and life-wise, different things would come up. Visits to the temple. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can.
Okay, prasadam, so many nice things, meeting different devotees. And especially during this last year, since one sister had passed, often when I spoke to the one remaining one, in addition telling what I'm up to, we would talk about death. And then my oldest sister fell down the stairs, broke her neck,
Gosh.
a number of things, then pneumonia. Then she's in the hospital. But it looked like she was going to live. But she was in a lot of pain one day, and she said to her friend, "I think my time has come." So I got on a plane and got up there to New Jersey, and I 2 days visited her in the hospital. And I was able to stay with Gujarati friends and bring wonderful prasadam to all the family that was there. But at one point, no one else was in the room but me and Carolyn. And I remembered that I had the 1-1 with me, and I gave it to her as a gift. But I first read to her the end of the preface, where Prabhupada says, "I must admit my frailties in presenting the Srimad Bhagavatam, but I'm confident of its good reception." And that whole point, the verse about, even the part about it will bring about a revolution. I was watching her while I was reading it to her.
And?
To me, it was very clear that she was keenly listening. And we'd, over the year, talked about, even a couple weeks before maybe, just talking about something in the world situation, she had said, "I'm glad I'm old." And I said, "Yeah, but, the soul lives on and take birth again, still be in this world." Like, so many topics have come up. But I was wondering how, we hear that Prabhupada said a person can remember Krishna or what to become Krishna conscious may happen in a moment.
Yeah.
And so I was just, I felt something very strong. I think I'm looking for confirmation. Not that she necessarily went back to Godhead, but yeah, please respond.
Yeah. Well, there's two responses at least. One is how can you assist a family member who's stubborn like that? Maybe not like inimical, but stubborn. I mean, there's different categories. You become spiritually elevated, and to the degree that you become spiritually elevated, they become spiritually benefited. Just by you becoming spiritually elevated. So keep going. That's one response. And another is this automatically, topic. If someone is resistant, then you titrate little by little by little by little. Then even that little by little has its effect. And you don't know what that effect is, but it has an effect. That's consistent with that little passage that you read from Prabhupada's 1-1 Bhagavatam. And a little sharing, because you're sharing, there's a devotee who did tons of service. I won't mention his name, but he, somewhere, decades of volumes of service. Something happened. And he kind of like stepped back, kind of like checked out, stopped his sadhana, but, he didn't have people to look after him, and so he kind of just drifted around to this and that and the other thing, reading things and watching videos and, doing stuff. And then cancer. And now he has devotees by his side as much as the hospital will allow devotees to be by his side, and they're being cautious because he was kind of out there. But, it's now to the point where they can chant with him and he's okay, because initially they couldn't do that because, It's just little by little. And so, he's getting so much mercy, in part from the hearts of the devotees that are looking after him, because he did volumes and volumes. And they don't know exactly what happened for those years that he drifted, but they don't need to know. That they know what's inside, and what's inside is Krishna's reciprocating. So same with, who knows what your sister was before? Who knows? And, any one of us can be agents to titrate something into somebody, and there's no loss. And something may come out. And it may take the time of death for that something to come out. Who knows? You never know. But one thing you do know, it's having an eternal spiritual benefit. Now you want to do something about Dhanukasura. Yeah?
Yeah, I wanted to add with this.
Okay, go right ahead. Do both.
If it is okay.
Do both. This is Alachua.
Bhagavatam 2.8.4.
2.8.4.
Yeah. Srinata Sadhaya Nittam. How this hearing actually activate and produce the result. So Prabhupada gave a long purport. There is one has to hear with faith first.
Yes.
Srinata Sadhaya Nittam.
Yeah.
And it has to be uninterrupted, like constant hearing. Then Grinantasya, then he has to contemplate and reflect. Because Grinantasya means accepting. He has to accept, not just hearing. He has to accept. So contemplation and reflection causes this acceptance. Then assimilation takes place. Then the Lord actually enter into his heart.
Although he's already there.
Well, Harivangsha says this when Vasudev's son came to, and then you know that, Maharaj.
Yes.
Then Nanda Maharaj's son merged into it. No, sorry. Vasudev's son merged into Nanda Maharaj's son. So the soul will, super soul will merge into Krishna. That Krishna that we want to serve.
Okay, that distinction. Okay. As you're speaking, just because I've been giving these presentations to new audiences a lot, which is nice. Trying to reach the hearts of Western people, because we're not doing a great job, frankly, without going into the detail. Patanjali, they all know yoga, and most of them know Patanjali, and Patanjali writes the same thing. And so with the research that I did, that according to Hari Bhakti Vilas, he takes the very same language as in Patanjali Yoga Sutras and puts it in Hari Bhakti Vilas. And then successive acharyas, Gopal Guru and Dhyanachandra Goswami, use the same language. But it's, the language is already there in the Bhagavatam. It's not Patanjali came up with it. The exact same Sanskrit language.
Correct. Chintan Manan Nidashad. Yes, I remember reading that.
So, Bhagavatam is the gold standard. That's my little,
Yes.
I'm off the...
Yes.
Okay, now, Dhanuka, or Pralamba.
Okay. Dhanuka, sir. I remember in Vaishnav Tosani, many years back, I read that Dhanukasura, he had a fault. The tal fruit was very tasty.
Yeah.
He never tasted.
No.
He never desired to taste it, and he did not allow anybody to taste it. That was his fault. So, Sanatana Goswami...
he had some other faults. He ate people. But go ahead.
Thank you.
Wasn't his only fault. He was envious.
So he said that anyone don't want to go to mystery of Bhagavatam or don't encourage other to get into. Neither he is tasting, if I'm not tasting Bhagavatam or not encouraging other, in the same category of Dhanukasura.
This is Sanatan?
Yes.
Where is he writing?
Vaishnav Tosani.
Vaishnava Toshani.
Yeah, it scared me, Maharaj. I still remember that.
It's his commentary on that section?
I don't know if his commentary or his commentary of the commentary.
'Cause it sounds like Brihat Bhagavatamrita type of writing.
I have the volume, but not in English.
I don't speak Sanskrit, sorry. But the English translations are available for Vaishnav Toshini. Okay, I want to look it up.
Yeah,
Look
it's
it up.
very nice.
It's very nice. Very
Yeah.
nice.
Thank you.
Yes. By the way, compliments for the younger generation people that are still here. Just sharing my experience, two things. One of the things I've become accustomed to saying is, here's a multiple choice question with two possible choices, A and B. A, Srila Prabhupada came to America to create places of worship for the non-resident Indians in America. B, Srila Prabhupada came to America to give people that are in America the opportunity to hear about Krishna and awaken their Krishna consciousness, whoever they may be. A or B? So now look around the room. And there's silence. Because generally speaking, not here in Alachua, but generally speaking, it's become like that. And it's not a fault, there's nothing wrong, but there's something missing. It's not complete, put it mildly. So we have to have strategies. So like, please make a strategy. In your local community, please make a strategy. Please, boom, boom, boom. And I pretty much do this everywhere I go, and I travel a lot. There was a second point, and it went away. It'll come back again. Oh, yeah. And second thing is, in most programs, the kids are there at the very beginning for kirtan. And as soon as kirtan is over, they don't just slowly dwindle away. They just get up and walk out. And it's not some places, it's most places, not all places. So this place is a little different. And I'm commenting and complimenting the younger generation people that are still sitting here in the room instead of whatever else, doing whatever else. My compliments to you. May you continue to grow and grow and grow somehow. I could share more on that, but that's enough for now. Go ahead.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. I have two questions for you.
Okay.
The first one being about Pralambasura. So I was just wondering, it says on this slide that Pralambasura represents lusty inclinations, desire, and personal gain and honor. So I was wondering, story-wise, why exactly does he represent those particular features? What exactly did he do that makes him represent lusty inclinations or a desire for personal gain and honor?
Well, his enmity towards Krishna means I want to be the position of my enmity towards Krishna means I want to be the position of enjoyer, but he's in the position of joyer, so he's got to get out of the way. The lust of honor and prestige and gain is taking the position of Krishna. No, it's not explicitly sexual kind of lusty inclination, but it's the other kind. I want the position of being the guy. And somebody else is taking that position, they have to move aside. So here's the next slide. Here's the next slide. Everyone has, like Prabhupada said to Professor Katovsky. You know this story, Professor Katovsky? In Moscow, Prabhupada's visa to Russia was granted because Professor Katovsky, an Indology professor at the University of Moscow, sent him an invitation letter, so he got a visa. And he met with Professor Katovsky So one of the things that Prabhupada said to Professor Kotovsky, how are we different? You follow Lenin. Everyone has to have a leader. Yours is Lenin. You follow Lenin. And our position is we follow Krishna. So how are we different? So this illustration is someone's bringing somebody up and up and up and up to the position of sitting on the big seat, and then they get kicked. One is on the right side, and then two is on the left side. So the person that's in this proud inclination for gain and honor, they often, not always, depends, but often abuse that power and mistreat the people who help them get to that position. That's this contamination factor, or the pride, gain and honor position. So Pralamba was powerful, and he wanted to defeat the more powerful. Both Krishna and Balaram. Defeat them. Kill them. That was his plan. So Krishna wanted to kill him. Anyway, that's the answer. Second question.
Yeah, second question. And you mentioned the Rasalila Maharaj briefly.
Which?
Rasalila?
Rasalila, briefly, yeah.
So in the Rasalila, especially looking at it from the perspective of somebody that's not inside, within the movement, looking at it from an outside perspective.
Yeah, they're going to get the wrong idea.
It's easy to see it as like a hedonistic type of thing, where it's for, striving for pleasure. And, it's, when looking at it from a surface level, it seems as if for an outside person to take this as inspiration to lead a hedonistic path and to pursue pleasure, and a service relationship doesn't seem as beneficial, not beneficial. Yeah, a little criticized, and it doesn't seem as pleasurable, right? Because a service perspective, a service relationship, you have a master and a servant, and in our case, we're the servants. And a hedonistic sense seems more pleasurable, and at least in the materialistic sense, it leads to the most net happiness, right?
And there's subcategories of those three, and it goes on infinitely. So now what? They go back to the position that people are going to get a wrong idea, and therefore, speaking much about Rasalila is not topics that go to the general public, because they're going to definitely get it wrong in n number of different ways. And many of them is vilify. Krishna is ordinary, so vilify or imitate. And then those two, you can subdivide those. So it's not meant for people that are not able to hear from the right source. Not hearing from the right source. So just a little history. Ragamika probably remembers, Nanda probably remembers, some of you remember this history. Prabhupada would speak so badly about, people that imitate the Rasalila section, and then he came out with Krishna book, and we're holding our heads wondering, what the heck's going on? Why is he doing that? Remember? Karnapur? Remember? So it was clear. He didn't know how long he was going to be on the planet. He wanted a proper explanation, so at least that was in place. And people can do whatever they're going to do anyways, with the Krishna book or without the Krishna book. But he wanted to leave it behind. But it's not a topic that we enter into with worldly people, because they're going to misconstrue it, because even if they're hearing from the right source, they'll still misconstrue it, because they're bent. They're distorted people. So they're going to hear it the way that they hear it. Still the opportunity. This little by little system. Okay?
Thank you.
Somebody that hasn't spoken yet. I think we should wind it up.
Thank you, Maharaj, for the wonderful
Would you like
class.
to have the last question?
I'm sorry.
Is it a good question?
I think for me it is, maybe dumb for the rest of the people. But you mentioned that we should get the mercy of Lord Balaram in order to get rid of these anarthas within us. My question to you is, Lord Nityananda is a manifestation, is Balaram himself,
That's right.
but he's in a more munificent mood.
That's right.
So is it intelligent to go to Lord Nityananda as opposed to Lord
intelligent.
Balaram?
You're very smart. And what's Lord Nityananda going to do? He's going to point to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And what's Chaitanya Mahaprabhu going to say? Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama. And then you're really smart. Is that okay?
Yes, thank you.
Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Now, yesterday I gave out some